This is a happy day for me, guys. This is a huge one, okay? This is a special moment in every weeb's life when he has a complete collection of his favorite figurines. In this case, it's the complete pop vinyl figure collection of the Straw Hat Crew. I mean, until the inevitable Jinbei pop figure comes out, and the potential Carrot pop figure, which I am sure is in the works. I mean, even if Carrot doesn't become a Straw Hat, she is way too marketable to not have a pop figure, you know what I mean? But anyway, out of all of these, I love all of them, especially you, Robin, but out of all of them, the one that arrived last was Usopp's. He was the straggler. He was the one keeping this perfect collection finally occurring. I'll just scatter you guys all over here. You know, Luffy, here you go. Robin, you sit right there. Yeah, okay. But everybody else can kind of just go wherever. Right, so a few weeks back, I did a video talking about the importance of Nami in the One Piece story. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it, it is not her boobs. We only talk about her boobs for, I think, 5 minutes in that video. The rest of it dedicated solely to her importance in the story. Now, I didn't plan on doing a video like that for every single one of the Straw Hats, but I did think about doing another one regarding Usopp, and I think now is the perfect time to do that, since he's our little straggler here, okay? Pretty much because Nami and Usopp are regarded as the weakest members of the crew, and whereas Nami's role, I mean, it's more important than just navigation, but it's pretty obvious that, you know, the first thing you're gonna think of is like, oh yeah, Nami's role is navigation, because without a navigator, doesn't matter how good your ship is, doesn't matter how strong you are, you could cut a mountain in half with just your little pinky, that's great, but you can't navigate from one island to the next, your ship is gonna probably get lost in a whirlpool or a maelstrom of some kind and get destroyed, right? So that's the importance of Nami just out of the gate. It's a little bit more ambiguous with Usopp, and it's kind of meta in a way as well. I'm sure when a lot of people, like, I'm posing the question to you right now, what is Usopp's importance on the crew? Many of you might be like, well, he's the comic relief in One Piece. So many great jokes stem from Usopp, right? And so many memorable moments where he's trying to, like, bullshit his way through a fight or something, or moments where he comes up with a crazy wild tale like, I once fought a giant goldfish whose poo was as large as an island. And then they actually encounter a giant goldfish whose poo is in fact as long as an island. So what are you gonna do, right? So there's a lot of funny things with that, but let's take this step by step. Okay, so first off, Usopp's position on the crew. He is officially the marksman or the sniper aboard the Thousand Sunny of the Straw Hat crew, and while it is an important position to have, definitely you want to have somebody on your crew that can fire, you know, cannons accurately at targets, especially when you come under fire, or in the Sunny's case, you want to make sure somebody that can fire that giant laser cannon at the front of the ship. You want to make sure you can actually hit somebody with that thing. The Gao cannon is an incredible feat of engineering. Thank you, Frankie. But unless you can actually hit your target with it, not all that useful. So Frankie and Usopp actually work great together in that capacity, where Usopp might come up with a new weapon idea, and because Frankie has the know-how with engineering and everything, Usopp could come up to Frankie and be like, hey Frankie, I have this idea for a new weapon. It's like a cannon, but it's like omnidirectional. It has like 8 sides to it. You think we can whip that up? And Frankie's like, oh, that's a super idea, Usopp. Come into my factory. We'll get to work on it right away. And by the two of them together, you know, Frankie builds it, Usopp fires it, that sort of thing. And I'm sure also Frankie is going to be teaching Usopp a little bit more about, you know, mechanics and engineering on how to build this stuff himself. Usopp is a little bit capable in that already. He built the original Climattact and later on the Perfect Climattact, adding the dials to it. But now that you have an actual bona fide engineer on the crew, I think the stuff that they could do is really endless if they just put their crazy heads together, right? But while it is useful to have a sniper, it's not an absolute integral part to the crew. There are plenty of crews in One Piece of pirates that just don't have a marksman, and they're perfectly fine. I mean, yeah, I did that joke in the Nami video where it's like, what would have happened if Zoro and Luffy on their travels while they're in that tiny little dinghy never came across Nami? Yeah. However, what would happen if the crew never came across Usopp? Hey guys, check it out! We should shoot at that giant rock over there with our cannon!
Luffy, that's a stupid idea. We're not wasting cannonballs for that.
Aw, Zoro, what do you think? Okay then, I guess I'm outvoted. Help me! Yosaku! Oh no, brother! You can't die now! I love you, Johnny. Yosaku! Yeah, so aside from the major loss of Yosaku, no, Yosaku! Because remember, he got the scurvy and he was dying on the side of a rock, and the only reason they found out they were there is because, you know, Luffy and Usopp were like, hey, Usopp, let's do target practice. And Usopp's like, hell yeah! You know, so and even if Luffy was doing the practicing himself with the cannon, he might not have even hit the rock, and they would have never found Yosaku. And I guess if you actually extend it, that goes on like a crazy trail there, where the crew never has to go to the Baratier, so they don't pick up Sanji, which means Zoro never runs into Mihawk, which means that they don't, you know, Nami doesn't see the bounty poster for Arlong from Yosaku and Johnny, so she doesn't immediately go back to Kokoyashi Village. So apparently the entire plot of the East Blue Saga hinges on Luffy and Usopp shooting a rock with a cannon. This is very integral here, okay? But, you know, they would have been fine continuing on their way. They would have, I'm sure Nami would have betrayed them eventually, and they would have found their way to Kokoyashi at some point there. There must have been somebody else that fights against Karubi, because Sanji wouldn't have been present, but it's okay. I'm sure Luffy could have taken down two, or Zoro, even injured, could have taken on Karubi and Hachan. It would have been fine, right? Okay, but beyond that, let's talk about his dream. All right, this is where I think it really gets fascinating, okay? Because Usopp's dream is very unique amongst the crew. Most of the crew have a dream that is sort of like arriving at the finish line and physically getting their hands on something, whether it be actual treasure, or if it's something in Robin's case like knowledge, the knowledge of the Void Century, or even something physical in Robin's case, the Rio Poneglyph. If you were going to put it into an actual thing that you can touch, she is looking for the Rio Poneglyphs, put them together, and she attains the knowledge. Sanji is looking for the All Blue, a physical place. Nami just looking for a bunch of treasure and to draw a map of the world, also something physical. Luffy wants to find the One Piece. Hey, as soon as they arrive at Raftel and they find the One Piece, doesn't matter what the One Piece is. It could be treasure, it could be a little note left by Roger that just says, you know, the adventure was the treasure. Luffy would be perfectly happy with that. Brook wants to reunite with Laboon. Chopper's dream is kind of a little bit more, he wants to basically become the greatest doctor in the world to cure any illness, so that just improves as, you know, more and more islands he comes to and just reads more books about medicine and everything there. And Frankie's dream is just to make sure that the Thousand Sunny arrives at the very end of the Grand Line, so it's on the same level as the Oro Jackson. Zoro's is to become the greatest swordsman. All you have to do to achieve that is defeat the greatest swordsman, then you're done. Usopp's, though, is... he does have a dream to visit Elbaf someday, but his first dream that we were, you know, when we first get introduced to him was, I just want to become a brave warrior of the sea. Okay? Now, the thing you got to understand is that this is something that for Usopp is a tall order from where he began at the start of the series. He was a liar. He was the boy who cried wolf, so to speak. Big inspiration for his character. Pinocchio, other big inspiration for his character. I wonder where Oda adapted Pinocchio's aspect into Usopp. I don't know. I think it's the hat, you know. But all the other Straw Hats, like Zoro, Luffy, even like Frankie, Sanji, you know, Brave Warrior of the Sea, I think they've already achieved that rank. You know what I mean? You know, Luffy, and I mean, Zoro can literally slice an entire mountain in half. Okay, I think, all right, you're a Brave Warrior of the Sea at that point, without hesitation. So there you go. But Usopp is sort of like the real person that gets, like, sucked into the One Piece world. Like, if that were to happen to any of us, we would probably end up as Usopp. Okay, we don't have any magical powers, we can't light our feet on fire, you know, we can't stretch our bodies, we're not cyborgs, we don't have very large tatas. Yes, that's a superpower in the world of anime. You know, we're not some kind of rock and roll skeleton that can separate the soul from our body, you know, we're nothing like that. So if we got sucked into the One Piece world, you or I, we would probably end up getting reincarnated as Usopp. That's what we would just have to work with. By the way, has anybody read this? It's great. It's essentially fan fiction, but it's amazing. The time I got reincarnated as Yamcha, seriously, check it out. I bought this at a Barnes & Noble, so you might be able to find this pretty easily at your local bookstore. Great read. But okay, so, it's sort of like that. And the reason that that's important to keep in mind is, Usopp is constantly surrounded by these amazing people. Okay? So I would imagine he would develop a little bit of an inferiority complex. Or he would wonder if, like, I even belong here. Because if they arrive on an island and there's a warlord of the sea there and they got their minions and they're attacking the Straw Hats, you know, Usopp's witnessing Luffy, you know, gear forth, boom, Zoro, Ichidai, Sansen, Daisen, Sakai, Sanji, you know, flambard shot, like lighting stuff on fire. There's like Robin and Brook and Chopper have devil fruits. Chopper even, you know, he was one of the more weaker ones, but now he has control over Monster Point. He could do all these incredible things. And Usopp is like, all right, I got a slingshot and, I got some magic beans, basically. Now, though that slingshot and those magic beans get him a long way. He can definitely contend. But you could see where maybe, like, the unbalance can come into play. You could see where, like, Usopp's, you know, in his factory under the Thousand Sunny working on a new invention. He just kind of stops and is like, oh, man. I mean, no matter what I invent, I mean, I can be all as ingenuitive as I can, but I'm never going to be able to compete with Zoro's monstrous strength. I'm never going to be able to, you know, mimic Luffy's, like, King Kong gun or something, so, oh man, I don't have any kind of special powers. Now, Usopp did awaken observation hockey in Dressrosa, and we haven't really focused on Usopp all that much in Wano yet. He is a toad oil salesman, so to speak, and by the way, I hope that toad that's on his head, I hope that stays the entire arc. I really do. I hope when they do meet back up with Usopp, he's like, oh, this is my pet toad, Gamma. Like, he actually named the toad, and it's like, it's pet now, and he just follows the Straw Hat crew. I would love that. I mean, come on, man. You don't get a toad to just chill out on your head unless it's your good friend or something. So I hope that toad sticks around. But yeah, when we get to meet Usopp again, we might find out, like, oh yeah, I know I have observation now. I've been training with it. I'm better at fighting. But yeah, so it's sort of like he represents, like, the everyman. He represents the guy that has to really work for it. Now, all the other Straw Hats did too. But the thing is, like, with Luffy got his Gamu Gamu no Mi when he was 7. He trained for 10 years, and then he set out to sea. We did not get to see those 10 years of training until way later in the story, until post-war arc. That's when we finally got the backstory, and we got to see Luffy training in his Gamu Gamu no Mi. So Usopp is sort of like the everyman that has to start from the beginning, you know, just with like a really good sense of aim and a really good sense of lying, I guess. And then he has to just work his way up through the stories. So every story arc, slowly but surely, we see Usopp's character development and also his power level as well, to use a parlance, you know, so to speak. Not exactly power level in the same regard as like Dragon Ball or something, but he starts inventing new devices. He gets an upgrade to his slingshot. He finds the dials. He incorporates those. Eventually pop greens. He's got the black Kabuto now. You know, all that kind of stuff. You know, that's like kind of like a, you know, a thing we get with each arc. You know, it's not like, okay, yeah, Luffy trained in his Gamu Gamu no Mi, but he's already a master of that by the time the series starts. He's really good at using his devil fruit. Same thing with Zoro, trained in the dojo, Sanji's, you know, Blackfoot style and all that crap. Robin's devil fruit, she's had that ever since she was a little girl. So yeah, I mean, it's Usopp's journey that we're really focusing on, and I think that's definitely part of the appeal there, even more so than the comedic element. I mean, yeah, he is pretty much the comic relief. It'll never get old whenever they are about to arrive on an island, and the island is just like, okay, so there seems to be giant pillars of fire erupting from the middle of that island. I have giant pillars of fire disease. I don't think I could go to that island, guys. I'm dying over here. Oh, man, the symptoms are getting pretty bad this time. You know, that'll never get old. I'm actually curious if, imagine one time that actually works. Imagine one time when the Straw Hats are about to arrive at a very obviously dangerous island, and Usopp's like, guys, I don't think I could go on. I don't think we should go there. And the Straw Hats are all like, yeah, okay, Usopp, sure. And then they just turn around and they go around the island like, oh, holy crap, I can't believe that worked. But I want you to think about something really quick, seriously, for a second. In that circumstance, if the Straw Hats were to be like, okay, Usopp, if you don't want to go there, we won't go. We'll go sail around it. How do you think that would make Usopp feel? do you think that would just make Usopp immediately feel like, yes, we don't have to go to the dangerous island? I got my way, I got my way, I got my way. Oh, that would kind of make, I feel like that would make him feel bad, you know? I don't know. It kind of reminds me of, like, when I was a little kid and I would be begging my parents for a toy at the store. I remember one instance where this happened. It was the Power Rangers Kong Zord, I think from Wild Force. Remember that? I'll show a picture of it, okay? I really wanted that Megazord, and I went to the store, and my dad told me I couldn't have it. And so the rest, I didn't, like, throw a tantrum in the aisle, but the rest of the time we were shopping in the store, I was just kind of like, I want the Power Rangers toy, you know? And I was just bugging the crap out of my dad, and my dad was like, I'm not getting it for you. I'm not getting it for you. I'm not getting it for you. And then finally, after like 30 minutes in the store, we're walking to the front registers, we're walking by the toy section, and I start, I want my toy. My dad finally just had enough, and he stormed into the aisle, grabbed the toy, and like shoved it in my arms, and he's like, here, fine, you could have it. And he's like yelling at me in the store, and he's getting loud, and I had my toy, but I didn't immediately be like, yay, I got my toy. No, I felt kind of like, well, Dad, it's okay. We don't have to have it. You know, like, that's how I kind of felt there. Like, oh, okay. So Usopp might have, like, oh, yeah, guys, let's not go to that island, but then they're skipping out on an adventure. And Luffy might be moping, like, oh, man, I wanted to go to that adventure. But, you know, if Usopp doesn't want to go, you know, and Frankie's like, oh, man, I was hoping to test out my new weapons or something. And then Usopp might feel kind of like, you know what? No, because here's the thing. He's not going to become a brave warrior of the sea unless he has to deal with opposition. I was going to say observation, but he has to deal with that too. So it's like he has to constantly being pushed into situations. And hey, man, Usopp, I understand, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in my life that I tend to not want to do until somebody really just pushes me into it. You know, like one instance says I had to do an internship when I was at school. And I was putting it off. I was putting it off as long as I could. And I was like, I don't want to, I'll put it off. Finally, it was like the last minute, like the 11th hour, like, you need to get this done. And like my advisor pushed me to do it. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm just going to do it. And I was nervous, but I went in and it all turned out okay. So maybe Usopp is kind of like that, where he's like, man, I really don't want to go to that giant island with the skull-shaped mountain with the giant dragon looming in the background with giant thunderclouds clapping and an imminent demise. You know, I really don't want to go there, but the crew's going. Gotta do it. Let's go, guys. I got the Kabuto. I should be good. Yeah, so I think maybe Oda, what he's doing with Usopp is sort of like a message to the audience, is like, even if something seems scary and you don't want to do it, you'd be surprised at what you can accomplish. Yeah. That's kind of the message I'm getting from Usopp. And hey, look, this is just my interpretation. You can have another interpretation. If you think he's like, oh no, you know, Usopp, he's just the funny guy, that's fine too. I don't see any problem with that. But really looking into his character for this video, I'm like, you know what? He really does kind of have like a, you know, follow your dreams sort of thing. Even if your dreams seem really difficult, it seems impossible at times. And as long as you have support, as long as you're not going in alone, because, no joke here, if Usopp went into any of these situations alone, he would have gotten killed a long time ago. You know, like, but he isn't alone. He has his friends. Alright, so it's like he has good friends that support him, and even when he's scared, he grits his teeth and he goes into it, and you can always rely on him when the chips are down. Perfect example, under the port at Dressrosa there, when he's teamed up with Robin, and they're gonna try to take out Treble and Sugar, and Robin gets turned into a Raggedy Ann doll, which is especially messed up because that means Usopp completely forgot about the existence of Robin, so he's not even thinking like, I need to defeat Sugar to bring Robin back, because he completely forgets about Robin's existence. So it's not even about saving his friend at that point for Usopp, that's just more of like an inherent like, oh man, I came down here all alone, and the others are relying on me, so I gotta do this, you know, and so he did it, and he succeeded in kind of a roundabout way, but hey, he dived right into the danger, even to the point where it's like, I failed, and I'm gonna die here, but at least I didn't go out a coward, okay? And that was kind of mirrors another moment way back at Arlong Park. I think we all know that moment, right? That was Usopp's big character moment. That was the one where he really had to put up or shut up. Okay, because yeah, at his village, the thing with Kuro and everything, that was dangerous and all that stuff, but not that big of a threat. You know, the Baratier and whatever didn't really do that much there. But then they get to Arlong Park, and it's like Usopp directly facing off a fishman who is 10 times stronger than an average human. No backup, no one to help him in that situation. He has to kind of, you know, stand on his own there. And it's not just having friends to back you up, but friends that rely on you. I was like, hey, Usopp, you know, we have all these fishmen here. One of them has to go to you. You have to carry your weight here. And Usopp's like, okay, I'll lure him out. And he pretends to get shot by that water bullet thing, the water gun attack that Shu does. And he's lying on the ground, and he takes out the ketchup packets, and he's like, all right, I'll just pretend to lie here. And he'll think I'm dead, and then he's going to walk away, and, you know, I should be able to make a clean getaway. But then he's lying there on the ground, picking up dust and, like, rubbing it, like, trying to pretend, like, oh, yeah, I was in the middle of an intense battle, guys. I'm wounded, but I managed to get away. And then he's remembering, like, trying to go through, like, what his story's going to be. And he starts crying, and he starts to be like, this isn't what I wanted to be. I set out to sea to be like my dad, to be a brave warrior. I'm sitting in the dirt covered in ketchup, rubbing more dirt into me to make it look like I put up a fight. This is freaking pathetic. You know what? Screw it. And I think he had a moment of just, like, the adrenaline rushing, and he's like, hey, Shu, you fishman bastard, you get back here right. Oh, this was a horrible idea. Oh, boo! And he gets, like, punched, but he does eventually manage to take out Shu. It was a pretty brutal fight. That was something that 4Kids actually didn't censor at all when they did it. They censored the scene where Usopp was on the ground crying, rubbing dirt on his body, you know, replicating injuries and stuff. They cut that emotional part out. But the moment where he tosses the alcohol to Shu and then lights him on fire, that part they left in. Go figure, right? So yeah, that's that involving Usopp. But yeah, what do you guys think about the long-nosed sharpshooter on top of him, of course, being God? That's another angle, but I didn't want to go in that direction because, you know, religion is a sensitive topic here. But if you know what, it's at the end here, I'll just come out and say it. I really do think that Oda is setting it up that Usopp is the true God, the true deity of the One Piece world. Okay, and I'm an atheist saying this stuff, but hey, if there's any god I can believe in, it is certainly Usopp. Absolutely, 100%. So yeah, and you know, even one more thing with the Sogeking persona. I mean, have any of us, maybe I'm the only one that's done this, has any of us, you know, in situations where we have to face a difficult challenge or something, maybe not put on a literal mask, like I'm gonna dress up like a masquerade for whatever, but have any of us, like, thought about, like, someone that inspires us in our life, whether it be a fictional character or non-fiction, and we think, he's like, you know what would that person do? You know what, I'm gonna try to think like that person. I'm gonna try to, like, I'm gonna put on the mask of that person in this instance, and I'm gonna go forward and I'm gonna do this. Like, if you're an athlete, let's say you play basketball, all right, and you think, it's like, you know what, I have a big game coming up tonight. It's one of my first big games, and you maybe, like, you're, you know, in school or whatever, and you're like, oh man, I think I'm just going to imagine myself as LeBron James or Michael Jordan, just go out there and try to own it like they do. Maybe I can, and maybe that would have a positive, you know, you put yourself in that positive mental attitude when you go and do it. So something like that. Usopp, I think, created the Sogeking persona for that reason. Like, no, the Sogeking isn't afraid. The Sogeking is what Usopp aspires to be. That's his end goal. To be the Sogeking, but without the mask, for himself just to become the true king of snipers. That's a poetic way to end this video. I'm probably not going to do any better than that. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking101 signing out!